Welcome to the Hip Hop Hustle podcast. We're back. We've got another week that we're here. I'm really excited about my next guest, my current guest, the one and only Tusekah. It is great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
For those who haven't listened to your most recent single, "Baby's Breath," it's fantastic. It sounds so good. You have such a powerful
Thank
voice,
you.
which is
Thank
why I
you.
wanted you on the show. But yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like that song's really taken off for you. Like I
it
feel like it,
does.
yeah, like it's
Yeah.
really exciting.
Yeah. It does feel that way that the song has really taken off. It almost feels like it has a life of its own. Like it's beyond me at this point. But it's been great releasing that. Like that song was written and released in such a unique way than my other songs. So yeah, it's great to be on, to be interviewed. And I'm so excited about this conversation.
Likewise. I see the thing that I always find fascinating is like songs are very much almost like, I mean, speaking of Baby's Breath, it is like a bit of like your child where like you're working
100%.
on it and then it turns 18 and then you have to kind of let it go and be its thing. Like, you know what? I don't know. That's always the metaphor I get. Like the amount of work that you would have put into that song and now it literally has its life of its own and you're kind of like, I don't know, I'm just seeing what it does out there. I don't know, it must be a weird
Really.
feeling.
It's a very weird feeling. I think it's great because obviously people are listening, but then it's like, okay, so if that song has a life of its own, I sort of have to just release more music so that that song doesn't become me or people don't know me only for that song. So it's great on some aspects, but on some aspects, especially on the like imposter syndrome sense, it's like, oh my goodness, how did that happen? Because literally, literally. I was just posting on TikTok and then all of a sudden it was just like listened to by so many people. So yeah, I hope I can release more music that sort of resonates with people in that sense or in that to that extent. Yeah, but I'm excited for what's to come really. But yeah, that's looking way ahead. But yeah,
Tell me about that feeling of like, because it seems like it surprised you. Like I don't think,
very much so.
yeah. So
Very much so.
when you realized that this was happening, what was the feeling that was going through your head of like, well, yeah, how were you impacted by it?
So weird because I don't know. I believe in like just working hard and just like doing it for the sake of working hard and then you just see what happens. And so what I had done up until the point where it sort of picked up on TikTok was that I was posting three sound clips of the song, and like 2 to 3 videos each sound clip. And then I noticed that the intro was doing quite well, and so I started putting in more effort into posting on that clip of the song. And then I sort of can't believe is that it's reached so many people around the world. And I don't know, like I'll have people DM me now and be like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for making a song." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, no, thank you for listening." So yeah, that's been really cool. I think I've had engagement for people, like from people who are just all over the world with the song. Whereas for my other singles, it's mostly been New Zealand, which has been cool. And obviously it's reached other parts of the world because I don't know, Spotify and other streaming platforms will just push it to other people as well. But with this song in particular, I reckon it's just gone in other places in the world and like people like release an album. I want an album now. And I'm like, it's more complicated than that. But yeah. Yeah, so it's exciting. Can't believe it, but yeah, very exciting.
Isn't that funny? You release a fantastic song, and the first thing that you get from fans is, I want more music. And you're like, it took me so long to release this one.
Lit- Literally, oh my goodness. I received a comment on TikTok the other day, and someone was like, "Oh my gosh, like you've been promoting this song for a while now. Like, when's the next one coming out?" And literally, that song came out 2 months ago. It's literally 2 months old. But I am working on releasing more music, but it's just really funny from this perspective of someone who's not really making the music, how time passes versus you yourself making the music and just releasing it. So yeah, that's an interesting thing, I guess.
Yeah, because you must feel the like, because I'm sure you want to capitalize on the momentum that you have, but you
100%.
also want to release a good follow up.
100%. 100%. I think it's going to be a really interesting balance with that because with Baby's Breath, I actually spent so long not releasing it, even though there were just like multiple demos of it and different versions, because I wanted to be perfect. So like, I think me wanting it to be perfect most of the time ends up being the case that like I'll wait a while before I release another song because I don't want to release for the sake of releasing. I think I'll get to the point in my career whereby I am able to just release just like that. But at this point, I really want to be precise, I think is the word with my releases, because then because I have so little songs out, it really matters what I put up. Having said that, I feel like the people who want to listen and generally are meant to, I don't know, I guess catch the vibe, which is such a weird term, will end up catching it. And I don't know, I guess it's good to capitalize on the momentum, but also feel like there's nothing wrong with waiting so that you actually release like or I actually release a good follow up that makes sense. I feel like that's been the thing that I've been thinking about. Like it has to make sense in the grand scheme of things because it's not going to be well. The follow up is not going to be a body of work, so it doesn't make sense for it not to make sense. It needs to, yeah, it needs to make sense.
I sometimes feel like musicians and artists put too much pressure on themselves. Like you get it from fans as well, but like what does perfect really mean? Like I don't there's no answer to that. There's no like
Yeah,
measurement of what perfect is. And I think like there's always a point where it's like, I'm ready. I'm ready to just
yeah,
let it go.
yeah. I think perfect to me is not necessarily that there's nothing wrong with it, but subjectively, I just feel satisfied with the work that I put in it, and it's how like it's like I can sleep at night knowing that if I listen to it like 2 years, 3 years from now, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's actually a good song. Like I'm happy I put that out. Yeah, I'm sure people will listen to my music and be like, oh my gosh, like why did she sing it like that? Or oh my gosh, like that's mixed super poorly, or something like that. But I don't know. As long as I'm happy with it, then it's fine. And that's perfect to me, but to someone else, it might not be perfect. And I really am working at like just easing up on the perfectionism of it all. But yeah, it's interesting because I don't know. I feel like I need to be really precise for the moment. Yeah, just because I'm in the foundation stages and the building blocks of my career, so I need it to be stable, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think your only job is to release music you like.
Right? Yeah, that's true. But I think another thing is to release like music I like that also makes sense in the grand scheme of things. Because I feel like because I'm a songwriter as well, um, I write songs that I like, but wouldn't necessarily make sense for the project that is Tusekah, if that makes any sense. And so I'll just keep that to myself, you know. If I release songs that I liked, it would be like so many different genres. And maybe that's just a foreshadowing of the future. But yeah, I think I need to release music that makes sense in the grand scheme of things as well. That's like, oh, of course, Tusekah would release that because I think it's like important to have like an identity as an artist as well. Especially in the beginning, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you definitely see as artists evolve and grow that they start stretching themselves. They do start
Yeah,
going into
yeah.
other genres and being like, hey, I wonder if I can nail this genre as well. And so they'll have projects where they're like exploring different genres. And I'm sure similar to you, they've always been interested. They just were like building the foundation of this is my base, and then I can
Yeah.
figure out what to do after that.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that. Yeah.
Yeah. But But it's good to like enjoy this moment because it's like, I feel like sometimes we keep looking forward to like what's next, and like
Mhm.
this is a really cool period to be in. Like
Very
it
much
is,
so. Very much so.
yeah. And like we're always like, oh no, what if the next thing doesn't work? But like I'm there are heaps of people who will never get to where you're at, and they'll be like, oh, that's where I would love to be. And so it's like just it's nice to sit back and like enjoy the blessings, and then be like, okay, this is very cool. This is like a great opportunity, and the hope is
Yeah.
that it keeps building, but also to like keep enjoying it, the moment for what it is.
Yeah, that's true. I think I tend to have a very like past, present, future way of thinking about things. But it's really lovely whenever I think about the present. Especially in the grand scheme of like where I wanted to be, because I don't know, like 3 years ago when I started to think about everything that's happened this year, for example, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, whoa, that's insane. Like, I think I would have thought about some of the things that have happened this year as being like way further in the future. But it's really exciting. See, I'm thinking about past, present, and future. But that's really exciting because then it's like, oh my gosh, if like I have these goals now, like I'm really excited for when like it actually happens, but also I'm excited for the journey. Yeah, to get there. I think it's yeah, it's a blessing to be in the position that I am in now, as well. And so I just need to enjoy it. Yeah, you're right. I do need to enjoy it. And it's not that I don't enjoy it. I think what has like really made music not as enjoyable to me as it could be is the fact that I've been splitting my time quite a bit. So for the longest time I was doing music on the side, but recently I decided to quit my job and focus on
Congratulations.
music. Thank you so much. Thank you. And so I'm hoping that will just mean that like creatively I'm really fulfilled because my job that I am like resigning from is just yeah, it's not creative at all. And so I'm hoping that with just focusing on music, I'll get the chance to yeah, just really hone in and yeah, spend a lot of my energy doing music. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always exciting. I mean, I said it on the show, I still have a corporate career where like I
Yeah.
still do that. It's like I'm just like I'm thinking about it, it makes me like sweat and like go, oh, it's a huge decision to make, but like
But
it's also like a very freeing decision.
100%. And like I don't know. I feel like I would hate to look back in like a few years and be like, oh, I'd be so much further if I just believed in myself and just yeah, did the thing instead of waiting. And I think I've spent a lot of my time waiting already because like I've loved music since I was a kid. And I did it all the way through primary, through high school. And then all of a sudden, after high school, I was like, oh, let me pursue science. What was I thinking? And so then it delayed me just like pursuing music fully for like quite a while. So I think it's been a long time coming. And I'm excited that I finally have enough confidence to just be like, no, I can do this. Like, let's just go. Yeah, Hundies.
That's so good. Like it's so good to like you're like put your chips in the middle. You're ready. You're like you're
Yeah,
backing yourself
yeah.
in.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. And there's definitely like some scariness in it. But I think I'm more excited than nervous because it's just like it's yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm excited because it's like I don't know. I'm like quite a I don't know. Every time I like tell people what I've done or what I'm planning to do or the steps that I've taken to get to a certain opportunity, I'm always like referred to as a hustler. And so like no, for real. Uh, and like it's like if other people see me that way and I see myself that way, I will be fine. And then also like it's not just that other people see me that way and I see myself that way, but I genuinely believe that I really am a hustler. Um, and like yeah, in the sense that like I'll do what it takes to just get where I want to be, which is cool. I'm excited. Yeah.
which is why you're on the show, the Hip Hop Hustle.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. It all works out. There was always a plan for it. Like it was always
Yeah.
meant to make sense. But yeah, I think yeah, just the whole music industry is just so fascinating to me. Like it's always been fascinating, hence why I spend my time talking to musicians. But like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
This job.
I think it's pretty good, to be honest. I don't have the stress of what you all go through, but I get to like peer through. I get the window into what you all go through, and the highs and the lows are just wild to me because it
Yeah.
really like you really give yourself to the people. Like it is very
Mm,
much a representation of who you are and your soul, and it's like impossible to separate that because I think the
mm,
people who separate it, they don't
so
make good
true.
music.
So true. I think it's possible to separate it, but I think the best art comes from when it's not separated. Um, yeah, it's just yeah. Like for example, like I think like if you were to make a soundtrack for a movie or something, it becomes a little bit more about the movie than it is about you, and then it can still be an amazing piece of art. But I think particularly in just like pop culture music, it tends to be that the music is quite I don't know, what do you call it? Like a mirror of the person, which is really cool. And I think that's why it takes me a while to release music because I don't want to release something that doesn't represent who I am and maybe won't represent who I am for quite a while. But maybe I overthink it because if I like the song, I should just release it, right? But it's really cool. It's really cool that you get to just talk to people about I don't know, their passions, I guess. Yeah. What do you reckon has been something that has been quite, I don't know, common between what you've heard between everyone? Be really interesting to you.
I think the common thing is just how difficult it is to actually release music in the sense of
Oh, yeah.
to let go. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people go through the agonizing of it, and like the some artists are better than others. There's always
Mm,
the self-doubt, the self-criticism, the like, do I know that this is going to be good or not? And some artists are
yeah.
better at just letting go of that and just being like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
um but I think the
Oh,
industry, yeah, I think the industry is challenging in its essence. I think I think it's way harder than the glamour and may portray at times. I think sometimes we have this image of a
100%.
musician, and then when you talk to enough of them, you're like, oh no, this is a difficult road. Like
Yeah,
it is
that's true.
difficult and it's not for the
Mm,
faint of heart, but it's also incredibly rewarding. Some of them are jaded. Some of them are like they've been in the industry for a long, long time. And I've spoken to people who are like, I'm just over it. Some people are like
Whoa.
incredibly energized by it. There are
Yeah.
some people who are just like, I've been doing it for 30 years and I can't imagine doing anything else. Like it really, you
Yeah.
get the full spectrum of it all. And
Mm,
yeah, I think it's incredibly cool. And I think musicians in general are very cool people. Like y'all don't think the same as other people. Like that, why
mm.
would you do something as crazy as like you record yourself and put it out there and like you bare your soul? Like that is such a vulnerable position to be in. And you're like, I'm ready to be judged by everybody. And so I think there's something unique and special about musicians in that way. But I also see like some people really do have a tough time of it.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. I'm glad I asked you that. That makes me feel comforted because it's like, oh, am I the only one finding it hard to release music, or is it actually hard to release music? No, but that's really comforting. And yeah, thank you for finding us amazing. That's really kind of you. Um, but yeah, whoa, such a cool answer. Hmm.
Oh, I'm glad it delivered because yeah, you never know when because I don't know. I feel like unless I try not to. I don't reflect that much on it all.
Mm,
But I definitely there are some months that I go through where I speak to people and I'm like, oh, they're all having a tough time, and my opinion of the music industry is shifting and changing
Yeah.
as I go. Like, I think I started this podcast like really like blind to it all, and the more I do, the more I'm like, I feel like I'm seeing a lot more of it. I understand it significantly more than I did before.
I think it's like a different thing to write a song than to release it. Like I think the writing part is super fun and it's super fulfilling, but once it gets to like the nitty-gritty, the like photographers and the rollout and the tours and the shows, it becomes a whole separate thing. And I know people who like the like corporate side of it, and the creative side of it. And some people who just like the creative side of it and just deal with the corporate side of it, and that's okay. Um, I personally enjoy both at the moment, and I hope it stays that way. And I think why I ended up deciding to just focus fully on it was that I feel like if I really want to like actually do it, I just need to actually do it. And because it's something I enjoy so much, it's like it won't feel like work. Whereas when I'm at work, I feel like I'm working.
Yeah.
And so that'll be really cool. And like it's just like, yeah, like I'm so excited. It feels so energizing to just, yeah, be in music and create music and write and perform and like write emails even. Like I don't know, something about it is just it's so fun to me. I don't enjoy emails that are work related, that's not music, but like whenever I send a music email, I just it's so good. It's like having a shot of espresso like every time. It's so good.
Your smile is really genuine and big when you talk about it. Like it is very clear about like how happy you are when you
I
think about it.
really am. Yeah, I really am. Yeah, I think I'm quite elated as well, just because it's like I'm glad that I can finally speak so freely about it. Because for the longest time, I was just like, no, no, I'm a scientist. I study science. I do science. I find it interesting, and I do find it interesting. I just don't enjoy it. Like, if you were to hear me talk about, yeah, it's just it's not as fun as I find that music is, and it's a great thing that I've finally accepted it and like know that fully about myself. And I think I think it's gonna be something that I look back on. I see the future again. It's gonna be something that I look back on, and get really excited about still. Just because it's like, well, like it's like it feels like it's what I was meant to do. And maybe you hear that all the time, but it's like I can't escape it. Like songs will just come to me all of a sudden, and it's like if I'm at work, I can't just start writing the song. But because I'll be doing music now, it's like I can just write the song when it comes to me, you know. And it's like it's something that I didn't. Like I didn't even I guess I did decide to do it because I could decide to not pursue music, but because the songs just come to me, it almost feels like it was like an inevitable thing for me to end up in the situation that I'm in. But yeah, I'm thankful that I enjoy doing it as well. Because it could be the case that like I just get songs that come to me and then I don't actually enjoy it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is torture. But it's actually not torture. I enjoy it very much. So, yeah, thankful for that.
How long were you agonizing over this decision for?
Oh my gosh, way too long. Way too long. Um, I would say honestly, since like my late high school career, um,
Okay.
yeah, which is crazy because the first thing I ever wanted to be was a singer. And then I don't know why, but the world told me that it wasn't okay to want to be that and I wasn't going to be successful. And then when I got to my late high school career, I was like, okay, well, it's time to get serious, I guess, because uni is soon and I could either go to uni or not go to uni. And as someone who's like an immigrant of New Zealand and my parents just, I guess the common word to use is sacrificed so much for me to get to New Zealand and have better opportunities. It's like oh, like how could you just say I want to be a musician? Oh my goodness, like whoa. Um, but now I have said that, and it's actually being received so well. So I'm very grateful for that. But also it makes me be like, why didn't I just do that to begin with if it was going to be received well? But in hindsight, I didn't know it was going to be received well. So yeah,
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? That
wow, that is
that it's often in your own head. Like that it's like
100%.
and it's just like this thing that we put ourselves through of like the imposter syndrome that you referenced at the beginning of like why would they be willing or accepting or all of those things, and then it happens and they're very accepting and you're like, oh, I was just freaking myself out for no reason.
Literally, yeah. Yeah. Well, now we know. And I've learned a lot down the path of science. But yeah, I am I'm so over it. Um yeah, and so yeah, I'm excited that I finally just had the confidence to just pursue music. Um and yeah, I think the music that I'm about to release will just be I think it'll be so much better in terms of just I am able to put in more effort into it because I won't be splitting my effort. And so I'm excited for that, for just not feeling like I'm not putting in as much effort as I could be because I only have so much and I'm splitting myself. But we'll see how that goes. For the moment, we're just taking it day by day.
Well, I think it's a good way to go. I
Yeah,
think yeah, I think it just you just have to enjoy the moment. You have to enjoy what it is to be a musician because like there are days where you won't enjoy it. Like there are days where it will suck and like things won't go to plan and you'll be like, oh, do I really?
so
But
true.
yeah, and so
So
I
true.
think that's what I see is like the moments of like difficulty is something I'm way more exposed to now than I was before. It's like, um, but I think it makes it even more beautiful when you get the good stuff because it's like it can't
True.
all be highs. I think a lot of
True.
like top end artists fall into the trap of like they get used to the feeling of really good, and then they just
Mm,
go to a normal feeling, which is
mm,
what everyone lives, which is like I'm just going about my life, I'm making food or whatever. It's just like existence, and they
mm.
don't know how to deal with it because they're used to the adoration and love 24/7, and it just fucks with them. And so
So
I'm kind of
true.
like, oh, you kind of need to have this balanced perspective of like enjoy the good stuff, but also
Mm.
enjoy the quiet, enjoy the peacefulness of it.
That's true.
Something
That's
about it.
true. It's actually really funny because you're talking about like the hardships, but I think genuinely since I started doing music, I've become so I don't know. Like no's don't bother me anymore. They used to, but like I feel like I'm like, oh okay, like that's a no, that's fine. Um, and like I'll put myself out there for so many things throughout the year. And I think it's just been amping up like as I've gone on and like know what to apply for or just have more confidence to apply for things. Um, like I swear it feels like I get like 98% no's and then like 2% yeses. But the yeses are cool. The no's I'm just like, okay, like and uh but yeah, I would say 2024 out of the things that I wanted to happen or the things that I was trying to get done, like it's been a great year, honestly. It's been so so great. But compared to what I was aiming to do, some things didn't happen. Some things happened that I wasn't expecting to happen that are positive. Um, and yeah, I think I was expecting 2024 to be better in some ways. And so it's been a great year, but it's interesting hearing you talk about the hardship of it all because it's like, yeah, this year's been a good year, but if I were to look at it as not being a good year, I can really identify some things that have like felt like letdowns. Which is really interesting. But I'll be hard on myself because it's me that cares the most out of anyone who I don't know who was involved in I guess releasing my music. Um, But yeah, I think I need 2025 to be better on the on the good side of things. Well, I don't need it to be, but it would be nice if it was. I'm sure 2025 will be a great year as well. But 2024, yeah, when we're talking about the hardship of it all, yeah, this year. But I feel like this year was just like a really interesting year for everyone, you know? And I call it interesting because it's like it doesn't necessarily mean bad and it doesn't necessarily mean good. I just feel like a lot of unexpected things um happen in 2024 and that's okay. But yeah,
Yeah. What happened to you that was unexpected?
my goodness me. So this year actually was meant to be the year where I released the most amount of singles that I ever had, which is really interesting because only one ended up coming out. Uh, but some things happened that meant that I couldn't release the other songs, which is okay. It's so fun. But I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, like if that would have happened, that would have been like whoa, insane. Um, and of course, as it goes in music, if you do a certain thing, it leads to another thing, which means you can apply for a certain thing or be eligible for a certain opportunity. And so because that has ended up not being the case, then it means that it just delays certain things, which is okay because this is my life. Like I make music, and so I can always just release them another time or um, yeah, just get those opportunities another time. But it's I think it's annoying when I think annoying is too it's too negative of a word, but it's disappointing when you're like aiming for something, and then it doesn't end up happening. But also, in the grand scheme of things, things happen when they're meant to, and so it just means that it wasn't meant to happen this year, which is okay. And the song that ended up getting released is Baby's Breath, which ended up like doing quite well, which is all good. Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
good, but it's just it's interesting how life works out because yeah, I viewed this year going differently in some aspects. But it's been a great year. I am very grateful. Um, if we talk about the hardship of it all, that's what I would point out. But in general, it's been really good.
Well, do you know what I like about what you said is like that 98% of what you pull your hand up for, you get rejected, but 2% you get yeses. And like, keep focusing on the 2% because I think the
Yeah,
98% dissuades a lot of people. Like, it stops a lot
true,
of people because they get,
true,
but it's literally the law of averages at that point. Like,
true.
if you know that 2% you're guaranteed, then all you got to do is you go for 100 things and you're going to get two of them. Like, to me, it's
Exactly.
like super empowering. Like, my corporate career is actually in sales. I manage
Mm,
salespeople, and like the simplest thing is like, you know, the law of averages. You're not going to win every deal. I would love to say that you're going to get 100% of your deals. That's unrealistic. But if you know that you convert 10%, okay.
mm.
So I know it. You just do the maths on that. And you're like, I can just figure it out. It's actually super empowering if you know that because you're like, now I just have to do this, and the law of averages will work out. And that's
True.
really easy to think about because now I've got the pathway to be successful.
So true. So true. I think that's when I started becoming insensitive to no's because it's like, okay, but there's gonna be a yes that will come, so it's so fine. Um, and also, I don't know. I just believe that the things that are meant for me are just gonna happen. Not without me working for them, obviously, but it's like if it didn't work out, it didn't work out for a reason, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a really empowering view.
Very much so. Very, very much so. It doesn't make it any easier to view it that way. But like, I think it's just like just logistically. Let's say, for example, you wanted funding for, I don't know, a project, and it doesn't work out, and you're like, oh, well, if it was meant to be, it was gonna be, and it makes you feel better, like emotionally, but also means then now you have to figure out how to release this project, you know, and then it's a learning opportunity, you know, But that's just like an example. Yeah, I think the no's are just what do you call it? A change of trajectory. It doesn't mean that it's not ever going to happen. It doesn't mean that it's not. Yeah, it's not a yes. Maybe it'll be a yes in the future. Um, but yeah, it's been really interesting watching my like attitude towards those like change over the years. I remember the first year where I ever like got into more of the like corporate side and just email sending and just applying for things. Um, I would get like no emails and it would affect my entire day. Now I'll get a no email and I'll literally chuckle and then I'll move on with my day. Like nothing happened. But yeah, that's yeah, it's a lovely thing to experience in myself to like view that growth. Um, and then I get a yes and then it's awesome, obviously. But yeah.
Well, a no is not a no. It's just not right now. I've always
Yeah.
believed in that.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
true.
Sometimes, like, I know, I definitely see it in like my profession of like when you go through a sales cycle, sometimes you
Mm,
won't win it, but if you
mm,
go through two or three of them, you're probably going to
mm.
win the deal. Like
Ooh.
sometimes it's just like you have to go through it multiple times, and it's they start to become more familiar. Like I see it really commonly of like the first time you may not get it, but after a while, like you go through it a couple of times, it does pay off. I think it's the same of like you just got to keep putting your hat out there. You got to keep going for it. Like
So true.
that's the message of just don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. Like a no, you don't know why it's a no. A no may be a no because hey, they've already got someone who's like you, or they're going in a different direction, or your sound doesn't make sense for them at the moment. Like there is a whole thing. It may just be bad timing. You may have
So
seen it too
true.
late. They've already decided where they're going to go, and so they just close the application window, or it's some AI that just picks up some random word in whatever you've said that puts it in spam. Like you just have there's thousands of reasons, and to hold your like whole being on the outcome of an email or like an application, I think it's a little bit. I think it's a little bit. It's not misguided, but I think it's the wrong attitude to have because it sometimes it's not about you. Like it may feel like you about you, but it's not about you. It's not personal. It's literally
That's so
just a
true.
business.
Well, I love that. I love that that the view that it's not personal. That's so true. And I think it's awesome just surrounding yourself with people as well that are super encouraging and see the best in you. Because let's say that the no, like several no's do get you down on the dumps, then you get people to just like remind you who you are, you know? And it's been really like that was really important in the like beginning stages because it was like, oh, like I wasn't expecting to be rejected so much. And then it's like, oh, but also like these people are telling me that I am capable, so I must be capable if you end up forgetting that you are. Um and then it ends up being that now you can remind yourself that you're capable, which is pretty cool. But yeah,
Yeah. The only limits are the ones you place on yourselves, like, or the ones
100%.
we do on ourselves. Like,
100%.
yeah. Like, first, you got to be able to imagine it. And if you can't imagine it,
So
then
true.
like you probably can't. And a lot of athletes talk about, I love sport. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's very, but a lot of athletes talk about visualization and they visualize the winning shot or they visualize the winning moment. And so, like, they visualize it enough. And then when the time comes for them to step into that moment, they
Mm,
visualized it so many times that it feels like home, like they
mm,
can see it. And I
mm.
think that's part of it. If you can't visualize yourself as a musician, then that
True.
then you're never like I hate to say you're never going to be, but like you, if you can't visualize it and you can't see it, then how
But
will anybody else? So you have to do
true.
the work of on inside to be like, is this what I see for myself? And if the answer is 100% true, then go for it. But if
That's so
you're
true,
not
actually.
in, then it's going to be hard for others to be in.
Yeah. I think as well because it's such a hard hustle. If you're not in and you don't want it more than anyone else, then it's like, oh, like who's gonna want it for you, sort of thing. But I've always had the belief that I need to not be the first person to say no to myself. So like if there's an opportunity of some sort, like I'll always put myself out there to write it. I'll if there's yeah, I'll always put myself out there to just whatever opportunity there is. So like for example, with posting the TikTok, it's posting TikToks is actually I feel like a lot of people describe it this way actually, but it's quite embarrassing almost. But embarrassing is just a state of mind, right? But you could be the first person to say no to yourself by being like, no, like no one's ever gonna watch these. Like no one's gonna feel like this is interesting, or no one's gonna feel like this song is worth listening to. But that's you just saying no to yourself first. Like you need to look beyond that and just be like, no, no, I'm gonna post this or I'm gonna release this. Because if you don't, then no one will ever know. Like you're not even giving other people the chance to engage or just yeah, or even yeah, you're just not giving yourself a chance. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fear.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a lot of fearlessness that needs to be had. Um, but yeah, if you enjoy something enough, like you feel the fear and do it anyway, you know, because it's just so enjoyable that you just want to do it.
Yeah. Let me ask you, I'm going to change tacts because I did want to ask you. I saw an interview that you did, or I read an interview
Mm.
you did, and you spoke about
Yeah.
love and baby's breath. And I think you said something along the lines of the song represents a love that is almost unreal and unattainable. And I've wanted to ask you about that and ask your opinions on love because I think that's such a fascinating thing to say about a song that you wrote to say that like I wrote a song about love that I almost think is not real and I'm going through a a breakdown of a relationship or like I'm feeling like a relationship was coming towards its end at the very same time as I'm
Mm.
writing this song of like this unattainable. Yeah, I don't know. I think I found that so fascinating that you said that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you about that.
Okay, so in terms of me feeling like it's unattainable, um, so Baby's Breath was written about my ex. It sounds so weird to say my ex because like I literally don't think about him. But I guess writing the whole song is just sort of an inevitable way to just keep thinking about this person. But I wrote it about our relationship and how I felt that I was the most genuinely in love that I'd been. And the song was a representation of that. Like, normally when I write songs, I'll write from the point of view of a character or I'll mix in different storylines from different parts of inspiration, like from books or movies or stories that my friends tell me. But with this one, it was completely just like word for word, like that's what it is. Um, and it's funny because I'd sent the song to him and he was like, "Oh, that's a nice song." And like I thought that was such a mediocre response. And that was just like just a smidge of what was going on in the relationship at the time. But I just felt like the relationship was just coming to an end and it wasn't what I was meant to be. I guess it just wasn't the relationship that I was meant to end up being. But it didn't change the fact that I actually loved him, and that was my first experience of that, I guess. And so at the end, because I knew, and I feel like girls know, and like every girl that I've talked to about this, we just know when it's like it's about to end, and maybe guys do as well. I don't know, but yeah, it was just like, who would have thought that we'd be here by now? Because first of all, I am a really a winner person. I'm trying to work on that. But it's like, who would have thought that I'd end up falling in love with you? But then also, who would have thought that I would kind of write this whole song about you and be like completely truthful? And then also, who would have thought that I'd feel this way about you, but still want to not be in the relationship anymore because I feel like I'm being taken for granted. That's really interesting. So the end is like, who would have thought that we'd be here by now? Because, whoa, like the world is so crazy. It's so crazy that life ends up working out that way. But then also, it's like, it doesn't have to mean that. It can be just like such a great love song that means who would have thought we'd be here by now, whereby the people are just more in love than I guess they were before. Like it's like they look back 30 years from now and they're like, oh my gosh, whoa, like we were kids and then now we have like a I don't know, a whole grandchild maybe. Um but yeah, I wrote the song in that sense. And I feel like it's unattainable because it has not been attained. And just because I feel like it's unattainable doesn't mean it's unattainable. It just means that I haven't attained a love like the love that I wrote about on Baby's Breath. But yeah, I'm glad I wrote that song. But yeah, he did not appreciate it. He did not appreciate, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, I'm glad you wrote that song too. And I
Thank
think a lot
you.
of people evidently are very glad you wrote that song. So,
Thank you.
but yeah, I think it is really interesting because like I also went through a breakup recently and like
Yeah,
it is one of these things where like you definitely feel like, oh, was that love real? Like you start to
for real.
question a bit of reality of like, yeah,
For
was
real.
I delusional in the way that I felt? And the answer is obviously
100%.
no, it wasn't. Like you felt
Mm,
genuine love at the time, but it's
yeah,
also kind of weird because you're like, this person was everything in my life. And
for
all of a
real.
sudden they're just like, they're gone. And I heard a quote that was kind of like, I'm going like I'm not going to know you for longer than I knew you. And that is
Yeah.
really weird to me.
Wow.
Like, that is like, there is a point where, like, we're not going to speak for longer than, like, and you would speak every single day. Like, they would,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I think all of that is just really a mind fuck a little bit. But at the same time, it's kind of like, you should be very thankful because, and this is how I feel. I'm like extremely thankful that I felt that way and I got to experience that, even if it's for I wish it was longer or whatever it might be. It's kind of like
Yeah.
it's a blessing to be able to like, oh no, I felt like genuine love. Like that is a
True.
really nice thing, and you can't control everything. Like sometimes it just doesn't work out, but it is a
True.
blessing to be able to say that you felt that.
That's true. I think I think that feels less of a blessing when you feel like you love the other person more than they loved you. It feels a little bit less, yeah, it feels a little bit less like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful because it's like, no, the only reason why I was experiencing this love is because I was giving love to you and then you were just sort of reciprocating it, I guess. Like this love was able to exist because I put so much effort into it. And I think the relationship ended because I felt that way. And I wrote a song about it and it's fine and it's so good. But like I think I feel less grateful for the fact that the relationship happened overall, but I feel grateful for the fact that I was able to know myself in that way, like know myself as like a person in love, than the whole situation in general. I think I have like quite a bitter feeling about the whole thing, but that's okay. Like I don't know. It doesn't need to be positive. I think I can still learn something from it, even though it's like a negative feeling. Um, but yeah,
I think my view on that was rather that it is a blessing to know that that's what you're capable of in terms of you're capable of feeling
yeah,
love
right,
deeply.
yeah,
And I think that's
yeah,
and like, you know, the relationship is the relationship, but it's always nice to be able to go, oh no, I can love someone wholeheartedly. I can
mm,
go and I can really give it my all, and maybe there's regrets and maybe there's like, you know, I didn't get what I wanted in return, and that's more a commentary on the other person rather than it is on yourself. But to be able to
mm,
go, yeah, I gave I really opened up. That's a really
mm,
good thing to be able to recognize because the danger is the opposite becoming true, which is I opened up and I gave wholeheartedly, and next time I'm not going to do that. And I think
Yeah,
that's a
true,
really
true.
dangerous way to like overcorrect, and then you end up hurting the other person who, or potentially the next person you date who loves you and gives you everything that you deserve, but you've decided because of the last relationship that you're going to hold back, and it's a vicious cycle. So I think you have to be like, that's a reflection of them, not me, and me giving it my all. That's something that I should continue to do because it's it's great. Like the only missing thing is the person reciprocating.
Yeah, true. But I think I'm chilling for now. But
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's a great thing to it's a great thing to be discussing because I think I've not discussed it in this much detail, I guess. Like on an interview with my friends I have. But it's really interesting hearing someone talk about it in this way. Yeah, it's so interesting. Because I think your friends obviously will let you be like, no, I hate him. He's such terrible. But it's really interesting hearing like a what do you call it? Like an impartial take on it, and also like a how do we grow from this and what's the next step sort of thing. Um, but yeah, I'm chilling for now. Oh my gosh, I'm chilling completely. And it's been great just like focusing on just music and because I recently moved to Auckland as well and just moving to a new city and um yeah, that's been great. I've enjoyed the rest of the year. The start of the year was because we actually broke up while I was on tour. Like I was headlining shows while it was my first headline tour of New Zealand. And then it happened then, which is okay, it's so fine. But the start of the year was rough. But now I'm good. I'm good now. Yeah, yeah.
There's no good time to break up.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I think it would have been tough at whatever point in the year. That's true. Yeah,
Yeah. At least you are on tour and had a distraction.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. But also the distraction happens to be songs, some of which were written about her. So it's like but you're right. Very good distraction. Yeah, it was a good time I think to do it because it was like, oh, but then I get to do this fun thing that I love. So yeah,
Do you know the weirdest period of a breakup for me personally is telling
yeah.
everybody? Like,
Really?
oh, I
Why?
hate that. I hate telling everybody. I feel because like you go through a breakup and you're like
Yeah.
digesting the emotions and you're dealing with it, and then you have to tell everybody, and you're like, and then you get the same questions all the time,
Yeah.
and you get the sympathy, and you get like and I appreciate the sympathy, but
Mm,
like there's only so much that they're like, oh, it's all right, like you're gonna find like I don't know, they're all
yeah.
words, and they don't really fix how you're feeling, and I
Mm,
really appreciate them. I appreciate my family. I appreciate my friends for being there for me.
mm.
But it's also kind of like, yeah, just telling
Sometimes
people
it's
is
just
just like, oh, I gotta have to. I don't mind talking about it. I genuinely
mm,
don't. Like, I think it
yeah.
helps me understand it when I process and communicate. But it's also kind of like, oh, it's kind of a little bit embarrassing. It's kind of a little bit
Aw,
like all these things.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was like,
But it
oh,
doesn't have to be. It
I
really doesn't
guess.
have to be. I think it's just a part of life to go through some sort of loss, and for some reason, it happens to be that we get into relationships, and then sometimes they involve loss in that way. And then people ask you questions, right, and be like, "Oh, so like, why did it end?" And when it comes to relationships, then you sort of there is sort of an explanation of why the person is not in your life anymore. Um, and I guess it could come off as embarrassing, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It's still a beautiful thing that you experienced. And it just didn't end up working out. And that's okay. And I'm sure
Yeah.
you've heard this so many times.
I've said
Um,
it. I've said it to myself.
yeah,
Like, I've,
yeah,
yeah. I think like I've accepted it. Like
yeah,
it takes a little while. Like I think, yeah, I've gone through the acceptance of like, it is what it is, and moving through the other side and being like, it's actually better. There are things that I recognized, you know, hindsight's 2020, so you can see a lot in the
Mm,
rearview mirror. But I think
true.
it's allowed me to see things with a bit more clarity, and then also like see myself a bit better and see what I
Mm,
would want in the future and where I'm at. And so, like, I think all those things are 100% right. I think it's just that moment of like, that's the it's the hard emotional moment of like, now I have to
mm,
navigate the first kind of couple of weeks, month of it.
mm.
Is That's the difficult part, I find.
That's so true. It's so great though to have family and friends to just have that to, yeah, I guess fall back on and have that support around you. Yeah, very crucial, important. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look at us. We dived into relationships and love. Never thought that we would
Yeah.
be in this area in the podcast.
What a
Like,
thought.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
But
cool.
I am excited about your 2025. It sounds like you've got a lot like that you're working towards, and you've got like a really good vision of where you want to go.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I think I have a good vision of where I want to go, but I think things still need to align for me to get there. I would love it if it was the case that I had like all this funding behind me because I feel like it's just I feel like that's the thing that just changes everything, just funding. Um, but I'll get to the point where that happens. I always write music. That's never a bottleneck. It's just the releasing of it. But I'm excited for the music that I've been working on in 2024 and even before that. And I'm excited for the opportunities that will present themselves. And also, I just got my New Zealand citizenship
Congratulations.
in November. Thank you. And so that means that I'm able to just like travel more freely, which is great. And so yeah, I won't say too much other than that, but 2025 is looking exciting, and let's hope that it ends up being exciting as well. But I'll enjoy it as it comes, really. And yeah, I think this is the most excited I've been about a year um since yeah, in my adult life, I think. Um but also with that excitement, I tend to be quite nervous about the coming year because I'm like, oh, I don't want to be excited, and then it's like, then because I've become so excited, then it's like, and then it's so disappointing. Um,
Don't
but
think
no,
like
let me
that.
not think like
No,
that. I
don't.
won't
No,
think like that.
no.
It'll be so fun. It'll be so fun. It'll be great.
We're only
Uh,
bringing positive energy into 2025. Only positivity. Yeah.
exactly. So you're saying I have like 2 more days, well, a day and a half to just let out all that negativity
Yeah.
and move on to the coming year with just positive vibes. Okay.
Yeah.
I will.
100%. And
Okay.
then you're going to
I'll,
do a tour in Australia, and then we can do this in person.
that would be great, actually.
Yeah.
That would be so great. I'm able to now. I have citizenship, so it's
Yeah.
great.
And Australia and
Yeah.
New Zealand were practically the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to get that sorted. I
You
really
know,
do. Yeah. I'm excited.
it's going to be a rite of passage. So now you've got your citizenship in New Zealand, and then you're going to come
Yes.
to Australia, and you're going to be like,
Yes.
this is where I want to live instead. And so you're gonna come to us because so many Kiwis move to Australia.
No, yeah. I was
Yeah.
about to say so many people have moved to Australia over the last year, even that I know. And the room that I live in right now, the musician that used to live here ended up moving to Sydney. So like, what's that? The connection to Australia is that close. And one of my best friends, Oscar Liddell, he's moved to Melbourne as well. Um, Foley, I believe. I don't know whether you'll know them, but they're like a pop duo. They've moved to Sydney as well. I feel like everyone just ends up moving there.
Yeah. Melbourne's better than Sydney, but like, each their own.
People, yeah, argue over that a lot. Yeah, I think I'd be like a Melbourne girl myself, but we'll see. I haven't been to either city, so I don't know for sure, but I think I'd be a Melbourne girl. Yeah.
Yeah. Sydney is stunning. We just have
Hmm.
more. Yeah. The people are better in Melbourne.
What people say, but then they say there's more industry in Sydney, so it's like,
Mm, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
Sydney's just not the energy for me. Like,
yeah.
I do like the Melbourne energy. Anyway, I'll let you decide. I'm not going to sway anyone, and for anyone who's from Sydney, like, that's not your fault. So, we'll forgive you for that. But yeah, when you come to Australia, you can decide where is like the better city, and who knows, you might turn around and go New Zealand's the best. But
Maybe we don't know.
we don't
Yeah.
know. We'll see.
Like I think I genuinely end up liking cities that are bigger. Like Auckland's my favorite city that I've lived in New Zealand. I think because I grew up in a city in South Africa that was just big and hustling and bustling and um just noisy and busy, then I find comfort in that. Whereas people come to Auckland and they're like, oh my gosh, like, whoa, that's a lot. And I'm like, whoa, this is nice. Yeah, so I think I'd like Australia better just because bigger. Um, but we'll see. I love New Zealand as well. We'll see what ends up happening.
Yeah, one day at a time. One day at a time. We'll
Exactly.
just move with positive energy.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, we'll see. I'm excited though. That's the energy I'm bringing into 2025. Excitement.
I like it. Well, before we wrap up, I actually only have one more question for you. It's the hardest question I'm going to ask you, even though I asked you about your relationship and your love life and what it means to love. This is still going to be the hardest question I'm going to ask, but it's the only question that I plan on the show. So it goes like as follows: if you had to recommend one album that everybody should listen to at least once to get an
Ooh,
appreciation of, it can be any genre of music. It cannot be your own music. What would it be?
interesting. To get an appreciation of music in general.
Oh, just to appreciate the album. Like, it doesn't
To
have to be the
appreciate
best album ever. It doesn't have to be like it's not your best, but it may be your best, but it's like, what album should everybody listen to at least once so they can appreciate?
I think Mother by Cleo Soul. Like I feel like I go back to that album quite often. Um it's just it feels like the type of album where each song was written for the next song, which I love albums like that so much. Um and it's just the lyricism, the like instrumentation in the album, too good. And I think you get out of listening to that album and you feel uplifted in some way. So yeah, Mother by Cleo Soul. But then just anything by Cleo Soul in general. Yeah.
Love that. It was so easy. It wasn't difficult for you at all.
That came at that was just the first album I thought of. I have a lot of albums that I would recommend, to be honest, but yeah, that one feels like the correct answer for today.
Yeah, I always say to people, like, you don't have to put too much pressure on the answer to this question because the answer can change. Like, this is just
Yeah,
your answer for today in this moment in time.
yeah, yeah. I'm actually gonna start listening to that as soon as this interview finishes. You've inspired me.
Oh, well, looks like we both have some listening to do. But between the two of us, we have listening to do. No, I haven't
Yeah.
listened to the album.
Oh my
So, yeah.
goodness. You're welcome. It's gonna be
Yeah.
so great.
Thank you.
I'm
That's
excited
why
for
I
you.
ask, because, like, I've done a lot of these interviews. I have a catalog of music recommendations that are so long that, like, I think,
It's so fair.
yeah, yeah. So I always have found fascinating what artists view as great albums. Like, it's interesting
Ah,
to see, like, you make music yourself. What music
yeah.
resonates to you as well?
Mm. Oh my gosh, I love that question. Great question. What would
Thank
you
you.
say?
I've never
What's your
answered.
answer
I've
to
never answered. And I
that?
and when you start your podcast, I'll answer the
Yeah,
questions you ask me. But for now, because it's my podcast, I won't answer
you
that
won't
question
answer. Fair enough. Fair
because
enough.
I don't have an answer. I'll be honest. There are so many albums out there.
Yeah,
That's why it's fun to be in my seat, not yours. Because as the
that's it.
interviewer, I do get to
Yeah.
play by my own rules.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, can't argue with that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like I also have a rule like if it's your car, your rules. So like if you're
Yeah.
driving and it's your car, your music goes on.
You
I'm a big
yeah.
believer in that.
Okay.
So I'm like, if I'm driving in my car, I'm listening to my music, and like you can navigate. I
Yeah.
don't do the DJ passenger. I'm like, no, no, no. If I'm driving in my car, I'm listening to my music.
But that's assuming that the other person doesn't have good music taste, as good of music taste as you do.
It's not assuming, it's just going like, this is what I want to listen to. And if I am
And
ready for you to do the DJ, you can do
yeah,
it, but also prepare for me to go, no.
no,
Yeah.
that's fair. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. I've definitely been on dates where they're like, but I'm the passenger. I'm like, no, no, no,
No,
you're
but
not the passenger DJ.
like then you get to discover new music. That's so great.
Sometimes I don't want to discover new music. Sometimes I'm like, because I've been building playlists.
Yeah.
I've been building a summer playlist of just like summer vibes, and it's been making me feel really happy. Like
Oh,
just the energy is really good, and I'm like, I
yeah.
don't want any like other energy. Like I said to my brother the other day, who was in the car with me, I
Yeah.
was like, I've just been listening to this playlist and adding songs to the playlist because it's like really upbeat energy, and that's what
Yeah.
I want for my summer. So like
Oh,
I'm just
yeah.
like in that mode. I'm not as tough as I am
Yeah.
pretending to be. Like, let's be honest. If people want to cue a song, I'm not like, no. But I'll let you cue a song. I'm like, but I just don't love the idea of they're choosing all the music. Like I want
So
to
fair.
have a say.
On that like upbeat vibe and like summer vibe, I get you. Like if you wanted to listen to that in the car and someone put on Marvin's Room by Drake, you'd be like, what? Like,
Yeah.
what are we depressed about? If they put on Sparks by Coldplay, you'd be like, why?
Yeah.
Why fix you, Coldplay? What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Read the room. Read the room. The sun is out.
Yeah.
It's time for positivity.
Yeah, true, 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 true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I, I get you.
Well, speaking of positivity, it is fantastic to have you through. It is so good
Thank you.
to have you releasing music. I'm excited for you to keep releasing more music. Not that you need any more pressure to keep doing that. I think
Hmm,
your fans are
thank you.
saying enough of that, but I think it will happen in its own time. And I know you've been doing tours, and that's really awesome. But yeah, it's so good to have you on the show. And before we wrap up, is there anything you wanted to shout out? Anything you wanted to plug?
Ooh, honestly, I'll plug all my social medias at Tusekah. So that's Tusekah. And that's where you can find out about anything new that's happening. And I'm quite frequent on TikTok. Instagram less so, but one of my 2025 goals is just be more consistent on Instagram as well. And I will be able to now because I will be spending a lot of my time doing music, which is great. But yeah, just on all social medias at Tusekah. And that would be great. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Yay! Thank you for having me. That's been great.